All right, and welcome to Sports on Tap. It's our summer spotlight series. I'm Rob Troutman. We also have Sean Duffy, and our guest tonight. He is the senior editor for RotoWire. He's also a co-founder of RotoWire. He hosts of RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today on Sirius XM satellite radio, and you can find him on XM 87, Sirius 210, Monday through Friday. It's, I believe, 12 to 2. He is Jeff Erickson, and he joins us here today. Jeff, thanks for taking time to join us.
Oh, absolutely. And thanks for asking. I always appreciate it.
And I know it's your busy time, so time is limited for you now, especially with it vamping up in August. You got to love this time of year, though, once it gets started, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is an awesome time because, hey, just in the last week, we had the Olympics. We still ongoing baseball at the trade deadline. Friday was a nutty day. We had the NBA draft was the night before. We had, hockey news out the wazoo. And, of course, tons of football news with everybody reporting to training camp and some stuff that's pretty big, too. We're already getting some pretty big injuries. Started off with Cam Akers, now Carson Wentz. A lot of stuff changing our ranks.
Yeah, we're coming right into like the drafts. Everyone's getting ready for their own specific fantasy football drafts, and like you mentioned, those injuries are huge for a lot of reasons, especially from a running back and a quarterback position. But I know Rob and I wanted to start out just getting a little background about you and figuring out how you started in this wonderful world that I like to call that we call fantasy football or fantasy sports, really, and how you got into it and really what led you to the point of creating RotoWire.
So back in 1997, Peter Schenke, president of RotoWire, a good friend of mine, we were in leagues together. And then a third guy, Herb Ilk, who's also, in those same leagues. Walt came up with the idea. Peter came up with the idea and approached me. He's like, hey, I work for the Wall Street Journal. I can see that every team's like local newspapers are starting to get online. You know how we wait 2 days for USA Today to give us out of market news. Well, hey, we can get it to you now and we can give you a fantasy angle on it. I do well in leagues. He has a good idea for business. And Herb Ilk, our third guy, was the tech guy, wanted to build the website. We all kind of put our heads together and launched the company. It's called Roto News at the time, January 1997. This was when everybody had those AOL discs that they mailed to you to get in dial-up internet access and all that. And, it was the right idea at the right time, having fantasy-specific news. We started with baseball, launched into football in the fall. And it was the right idea at the right time, and it really took off. And this industry has evolved in so many different ways since then, and it's just been quite a ride.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of your guys' site. Yeah, I've got a full transparency. I've utilized you several times to finish in the middle of a couple of leagues I had no business being in. So I really want to appreciate that. I've actually won our particular league. I'm not going to brag too much, but I did have the belt. Rob had the belt. Everyone on this show had the belt, but I'm coming back for it this year. And I'm glad you're on the show because I know we had some questions from our other co-hosts that couldn't be here. We're going to pepper you with some questions later on. But one of the big questions that I know we had when we first were, again, thank you for coming on the show, but we want to know are you guys pulling all of your material from local news? I know early on you pulled it from local newspapers, but are you guys still doing that, or are you still having inroads with certain teams within the league itself, specifically for the NFL?
Anywhere and everywhere. We don't have too many on-site reporters. Frankly, news gathering is it's freely available everywhere. With the advent of Twitter and how that's become, commonplace, that everybody gets that news pretty quickly. So there's no real news advantage. So maybe it's just more drawing some insights. And for us, that's, you can rely on people with visual evidence as best you can, but I'm not a scout. You're not a scout.
Mm-hmm.
We all like to say that we are when we watch games with, when we watch it. And it does help to watch. You see things that may not get reported, especially if you're just looking at a stat line. It really helps to watch every game. But I'm not going to pretend that I can break down film better than most fantasy analysts in the business. I can't. I think you try to synthesize the information and try to come up with a strategy as best you can. I will watch every single play of every single team, but there are countless guys in the industry that do a great job of that.
Excellent. And you guys, when you guys are putting together, say, like your draft kits and your cheat sheets and your rankings and things like that, are you taking all the information in and kind of funneling it into for lack of a better word, hopper, or are you guys kind of making those are you guys having legitimate conversations about, I rank, say a Zeke Elliott in 3 versus another guy that you guys sit around and says, no, he's a 5 coming off an injury and the offensive line and everything like that. Is that something where you guys are, kind of bringing all the information to a hopper, just kind of figuring it out as an algorithm, or is it more so, feel and gut feeling?
So Chris Liss is the lead guy, RotoWire's managing editor. He's the lead guy for our rankings and projections at RotoWire. Of course, I'm going to lobby for certain guys, certain ways, but he gets final vote on that because he's the one that's putting the work in. He's the one that he does this every single year for us. I do that for baseball, and we have another guy that's in charge of basketball. You have to have like someone in charge, and that's going to include their biases a little bit. That's you're going to start with that. But of course, I've been doing radio with Chris for 15 years. So he and I are going to go back and forth on players. Sometimes I'll change his mind, most often not. But, and as news dictates, we'll change things accordingly. Right. And that's the other thing, won't always be just, conversation. Sometimes the news will change things. For instance, Jonathan Taylor is going way down in our rankings. Because let's face it, he's without his best offensive lineman and his starting quarterback, and it's Eric Fisher, the left tackle. Who knows what strength he'll be at? So we use that information to try to influence our rankings, but it's not the be all end all. It's just we do have the conversation. Chris gets final vote.
Excellent. And again, I'm just going to continue on here because I know some of the questions that we had for you specifically. I wanted to get those out to you. Everyone has a personal preference, whether it be some people are stalwarts. They like a standard league for scoring. Some people I feel it's shifting more to a PPR. The daily DFS is exploding, I think, exponentially in the market right now and really creating an opportunity to kind of get the casual fan more involved with the DFS. Do you have a preference personally as to what type of league you like to play in? Do you prefer a PPR? Do you prefer a standard league? Are you a purist where you want to do the whole rotisserie style and calculate all the stats to make sure? I don't know what type you have there.
I'll be honest, I've never played rotisserie style football. For baseball, I love it, of course, because that's the original. But I love the NFFC. I play that. I love their online championship. We're a title sponsor, so of course there's some bias there. But Greg and Tom do great work. Greg and Brosh is Tom Kasnick. I love the overall idea of a total overall contest. And there's different price points. I like playing both the 12 and the 14 team. And then that's PPR. It's 3 receivers and a flex. I like that in terms of the format. But I really like playing super flex leagues too. That's the one thing I'm like Scott Pianowski from Yahoo. I like the more starting spots we have, the better. I think that really separates takes a little bit of the luck element out because you have to dig in the corners a little bit. You have to find guys, that third receiver who's going to have some upside, could be a 1 or a 2 eventually. The guy that's going to nudge his way in and force more playing time over the course of the season. I like Superflex because fantasy football does one thing wrong. Quarterback is the most important position on the field in real life football. Yet, if you're in a 10 or 12 team league and you only start one quarterback, you don't even draft a good third of the pool that's starting. Whereas we're digging for 4th and 5th and 6th running backs, and likewise at wide receiver. Take, for example, you guys, you're Cleveland fans. Baker Mayfield is barely draftable in a standard 12-team league unless you really feel like all of a sudden they're going to change their tendencies and throw the ball more. But in a league where, running quarterbacks are at a premium and attempts are at a premium, he's a good quarterback in real life. But in fantasy, he's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we hear not locally too. Is that just the scheme and then type of running type of offense that particularly the Browns. I mean, we're Cleveland, we're homers. It's the first time in several years that I've been in Cleveland that the Browns are worth talking about in August, and there's actual legitimate evidence to back it up. And I guess we'll get right to there. Is there a player on the Browns that you feel really confident about? I mean, and
Chubb, easily.
I mean, even with the fact that Kareem Hunt is there, and it will take some. I mean, say a PPR league, maybe Kareem Hunt's a better play at that point, or do you stream him later on in the rounds to see if you can pick him up and start him at a flex?
Well, the problem with getting Kareem Hunt is you're not paying a streamer cost for him. You're paying a guy that you're paying like a 5th round cost for him, which means you want to start him every single week, 5th, 6th round at worst. And Chubb, I'm getting at the end of the 1st round. I know what he can do. He can catch passes. We've seen it. He's capable of doing it. It's just that Hunt is a better pass catcher, and they'd rather steer more passes in the direction. But we know Chubb is just flat out good, and he can. And you've got a floor with him. And first round is about floor. So late first round. In fact, I kind of like positioning myself to be later in the first round. Take Chubb there and still get a better player in the beginning of the second round. I think that's an ideal spot to draft.
How do you think Odell Beckham will be this year? He was out last year, and I feel like the Browns, they actually played pretty good without him last year. Baker Mayfield seemed to get comfortable, getting a little bit of a rhythm, and I know he's probably maybe a top 10, top 12 quarterback. I'm sure he's not going to be one of the top few tiers of quarterbacks, but what do you think about Odell? Because I know he was thrown back in our league and probably a lot of other leagues. He used to be a first round pick. What do you think this year?
Yeah, he's like pick wide receiver 30 now. And that's, and he's coming back from a torn ACL. You got to wonder how much explosiveness is he going to have left? He's getting a couple of days off in practice here and there. I bet you during the regular season, when you see the practice reports that Wednesday, he's almost never going to practice, at least early on in the season. He's been through so much. He played through a huge injury 2 years ago with that groin injury, just played through it all season long. And that kind of, put a crimp on his stats. It's been a pleasantly quiet camp so far for Cleveland so far. There's been very devoid of controversy and no big news yet. And that's what you want. It's like press your luck, no whammies. That's what we're looking for here. And it's been really nice. I'd be happy to get him as my third wide receiver. But I don't want to rely on him anything more than that. I'm kind of curious to see how Anthony Schwartz does. The kid out of Auburn. He's coming back from that hammy. I think he's got some pure speed that's interesting between he and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think you might see them make either one of them make a big impact there. The thing is, everybody expects the Browns to be pretty good this year. They have a good defense, a really good offensive line, but their fantasy players aren't really coveted. Austin Hooper is tight end 20, 15 to 20. Same thing with Mayfield. That doesn't quite jibe. If the offensive line's so good, it should be a highly functioning offense. There might be some value potential here.
Yeah, and it's weird because Austin Hooper with the Falcons, he was kind of one of the top fantasy tight ends everybody wanted at one point in time. And now with the Browns, it seems like they spread the ball out. They run the football quite a bit. So it is tough to spread the love and the fantasy football love all over the place. But what do you think in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara? Now that Drew Brees isn't there, do you think the fantasy value for Kamara could be a little bit lower?
Taysom Hill hurts Kamara a little bit, just because he's not going to dump off to the wide receiver to the running back as frequently. However, with Michael Thomas out, I think those two things cancel each other out, and in fact pushes Kamara back up in favor of him a little bit. I think in a PPR league, I'm all boats ahead, all full steam forward. Or whatever metaphor you want to mix there. I'm top 3, top 4 for him. It's whether he or Zeke at 3 is kind of the question for me. And I lean Kamara.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of Zeke Elliott, he's coming back. He was a bit banged up last year. Once Dak Prescott got hurt, I think a lot of the emphasis then became on the running game. And again, with that offensive line play that was not up to par last year, not to mention, as long as I've been playing fantasy football, I can't remember a Mike McCarthy style offense that really had a solid, great running game. So, for somebody who is looking to draft Zeke Elliott, is there any sort of kind of pullback there with given, how much he was relied upon last year and Dak Prescott, he's coming back, but how effective is he going to be? And is that going to put a lot more weight on Zeke's shoulders?
Well, and the big question mark, I'm glad you mentioned Dak too, because remember, he just hurt his shoulder and he's not throwing right now. In fact, they just said they're going to take things a little slower. Although Mike McCarthy today kind of pulled back from his pullback comment a little bit, saying, well, we're just talking because it's early preseason and talking about time frame. So maybe it's not supposed to be a big deal. The offensive line is the huge key here, though, guys. Tyron Smith and Lyle Kellens both got hurt last year, and those were huge injuries. We're talking about, you build a whole team around the concept of elite offensive line. And then you take away, losing the starting center at the beginning of the season, taking away the 2 tackles. Zach Martin was hurt a bunch. It was a shell of itself. And then you put a backup quarterback in there, and then the third string quarterback after that. Of course, you're going to have major problems with the run game. You're going to have like 8-9-man boxes.
Yeah. And they saw it last year too. In every game that I watched, it was because I had Zeke Elliott last year, and it was very difficult to bench him towards the end of the year, but you almost had to do it. A lot of the offseason, we saw a lot of movement, particularly in the quarterback position. Matt Stafford and Jared Goff switched, one in Detroit. Now Matt Stafford's in LA with McVay. Carson Wentz is now a Colt, although right now he's currently a patient 17395 at the Indianapolis Medical Center. So, I mean, when you see those changes, obviously you take the Carson Wentz injury with what it is. Do you see a bigger upside for a guy like Matt Stafford, who's been honestly a stalwart for the Detroit Lions for the longest time through really thin and not so much thick? Now that he's going to an offense where McVay wants to put the ball vertical, wants to stretch down the field, is Matt Stafford going to have an upswing of a year this year with that offense, do you think?
I'd hope so. I'm pretty high on the Rams offense as a whole. The coaching changes, as you alluded to, I mean, you can't get any worse than Matt Patricia and switching over to Sean McVay. Of course, it's also the coordinator that matters, the line that matters. It's a much better offensive line in front of them this year. I think that's a big thing. I'm big on both Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods this year. I actually even think Darrell Henderson is someone I want to get a few shares of. I'm pretty happy about that. I know it's always bad to say shares, but I find myself doing it all the time anyhow. But I think you're right. If you're waiting on quarterback, you get to like the 10th, 12th quarterback. It's Tannehill and Stafford, the guys I'm getting a lot.
Excellent. Now, how many leagues are you in? And is it tough because say you're in 5 leagues, and you get a certain amount of players, you get the same players in a few leagues and then different players in the other 3. I remember I'm only in a few leagues, but you always try to get the same players just so you're not rooting for everybody. But is that tough for you? You're probably in how many, like 20 leagues?
About 15 or so. And I don't find myself, I mean, I am going to double and triple up on guys just because I like them. I'm not going to diversify for diversification's sake. I'm not going to take a guy just because I have him in another league either. I think maybe it's a 50. If it's a 50-50 call, maybe I'll lean in the direction of repeating just because it's easier to manage. But not really, though. I mean, what I do is I save every league homepage in one folder, open them up in tabs, go one by one every day. I do that for baseball. I'm in 17 baseball leagues too. So
nice.
Yeah. Again, I get to do this for a living. So
that's true.
I'm blessed.
It's not a bad gig. Let's put it that way.
It's not, because I'm in one baseball league and I feel like that's my second job. Just making
baseball. I mean, God, I love football, guys, but baseball is fantasy on steroids. I mean, it's way more involved every day. First of all, secondly, a much bigger player pool. But I love the difference. I think I'm blessed that I get to do all that. August and September kick my butt really good. But so it goes. I'm only in one hoops league because of that. I'm only in one hockey league. That's the thing is I can't do any more than that during football season. Just getting ready for a draft is just way too much for those. But and the thing is, I like who I like. Now, granted, in snake drafts, you're going to be in various positions. Like you're never going to get Dalvin Cook drafting 5th or late or anything like that. So you just have to be prepared to have some diversification. That's fine. I don't mind. I mean, I like plenty of guys, so it's not a problem.
So what's your favorite? You like fantasy football, fantasy baseball? It seems like you like fantasy baseball the best. So out of
I mean, it's I like them all. I mean, baseball is my first fantasy sport. It's my first sport, period. So I do have a slight preference, but I love it all. I mean, I love the rhythm of the football season. I love, you watch, after you watch the games on Sunday, Monday, we're all recapping it. Tuesday, I do my rankings for the week. Tuesday night, late, I start my waivers on the Yahoo leagues, I'm in. And then Wednesday, we do waivers and a bunch of others. And you start to, you pay attention to the free agents. Then by Thursday, you're getting ready for that Thursday night game. You get your survivor pick in. If you're doing picks against the spread, you start thinking about that a little bit hard and heavy. Although I'm obviously not a gambler because I would be thinking about those picks on Monday morning if I were, but while trying to get the best possible line. But the thing is, I'm always, I like the rhythm of the regular season. I like that. Whereas baseball, it's on every day and it's different start times every day. If you have a daily moves league, that's why I try to avoid most daily moves leagues in baseball, just because it's too much. And especially, I don't know if you guys have kids. I have 2 girls that are teenagers now. They have plenty of activities to keep me hopping too. And, you got to have some semblance of balance in your life.
I was going to say, how do you balance all that? I mean, I have a daughter, she's 7. And she's busy alone. Having 2 kids, I'm sure, with all the activities and, as soon as they probably go to bed, you're up till 1 a.m. trying to balance.
Not as often as I used to be. Hey, I'm 50, guys, so I can't pull that off as much anymore. But
again, Rob, the important thing is he gets paid to do what we're talking about right now. What we do to avoid our job, he's getting paid to do for his job.
Those 8 hours where you're actually doing a real job, I get to play. It's an unfair advantage. So that's why I play, but that's why I play in more leagues too. I mean, then come dinner time, come soccer practice time, focuses on that. And then, like you said, when things settle down for the evening, then I'm back at it with that, at nighttime.
One question I do have coming in, this is from my wife, because she's also in a ladies league.
Awesome.
Not quite as cutthroat as the league that we have for this show. There is no championship belt, but she does have a question. Are there any rookies that are coming in this year that really you think are going to flash for the year? Like, I know last year we had Justin Herbert, who, Tyrod Taylor has had just the sprinkling of every rookie quarterback making their debut, whether it's Baker Mayfield and then Justin Herbert. Is there another sort of quarterback or even non-quarterback that you see coming in as a rookie that you think is going to make a big impact on the fantasy world?
Well, we always look running back first, right? Because of opportunity. Najee Harris got a little banged up in practice today. Something to watch for on that, by the way. But he's obviously got a clear path to opportunity. I think Travis Etienne is the class, like the running back of this class. And even though he's getting drafted later and has to share with James Robinson, I want him. I don't think it's hard to envision a path to him being a first-round player next year. With his pass catching skills, with his elusiveness and power, I want lots of him. And I actually will, I'll lift Grays up and take him a little early. Got him at the 3-4 turn in a draft a week ago. I'm willing to kind of go that route. We've got, I think Jamar Chase, I can take off my Bengals shades for a second. I still think that Jamar Chase is all that. He's as advertised. I'm excited to see him in a full season with Burrow reunited together. I think the interesting guy is Pitts, because you never see rookie tight ends do what we expect. But then again, we've never seen a tight end get drafted that early in the NFL draft. I mean, if he really truly is a generational talent, then we should expect more than, a 650, 700-yard peak. You should expect 1,000 yards. And he's getting drafted as such, he's like usually the 4th tight end drafted behind the big 3 of, Kelsey, Waller, and Kittle. Then he's usually the next tight end. And I've even seen him go ahead of Kittle in some places.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, he was talented at Florida. I mean, he makes plays. He's athletic. And tight ends, it seems like you just said, there's only really 3. And then there's the rest of the crew that you can draft probably a little bit later. Hunter Henry, if he didn't get hurt, I think he'd be a sensational tight end, but he always gets hurt. And that's the same for most of the rest of the guys too.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how he does in New England. There's going to be 2 tight ends there, so that's a little different. And plus, Cam Newton is not Tom Brady when it comes to using the tight end, so we'll see. But although that's not really fair, because Greg Olsen had some pretty good years in Carolina, and Wesley Walls before that, if you want to go in the Wayback Machine a little bit there. So it is, it's still possible, but it's just there. I just don't know if he's going to get the same target load. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you guys do a great job with RotoWire.com. So if anybody, wants information on pretty much any fantasy sports, I would go there. And I know that's where I've pretty much lived. You have great rankings and people can go there for all that information. But
not just football too, because I did a DFS hockey last year.
Nice.
Just try it out. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I think I was trying to draft 2 guys from the Red Wings that weren't on the Red Wings anymore, because that's when I lived in Detroit. So I went to your guys' website and, it led me through. I didn't win any money, but at least I understood who I was drafting.
Well, you almost sounded good there for as an endorsement. Then you said you didn't win any money. I don't know.
It was one of those free, 50,000 people enter.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I just did it because I'd never done hockey before. I wanted to see what it was like. So I figured give it a shot, and then I might do it again this year. It was fun.
Great. That's awesome. I'm a Red Wings fan actually too.
Excellent.
My mom grew up in Detroit, and so my dad doesn't give two hex about hockey. And
Yeah.
my mom, on the other hand, got me introduced to the game, has Gordie Howe's autograph and all
There it
that.
is.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Wow.
So
I
she was
remember Steve
hardcore.
Yzerman.
Yeah.
Yzerman
I
was
love
my guy.
Yzerman. I love, we were blessed. We were
Lidstrom.
spoiled with all those great teams.
Yeah, Fedorov, Yzerman.
Lidstrom.
I lived in Detroit when they were going through when they were going through all that. And
That's
it was
awesome.
fresh out of college, and I got to go to a couple games, and that was insane. Like I'll put Red Wings hockey, that area, up against any major football, anything like that. It was
Red
so
Wings
loud.
Blackhawks in the 90s when I was in Chicago was so good.
Yeah, and you like the Bengals too. I mean, how has it been as a Cincinnati fan with the Reds? Always seem to be consistently good. Joey Votto, they signed to a 10-year contract a while ago, and he's produced every single year. So
almost every single year.
Almost.
Yeah.
How do you like? You're a big Cincinnati fan. You said you're from the Indianapolis area, but now you're in California, so you're still a Bengals and Reds fan.
I guess I was raised to be loyal like a dog, I suppose, because the Bengals have not treated me well. We had that run under Marvin Lewis. We were consistently solid, but always consistently coming out small. We haven't won a playoff game since the 90s. That's tough. It's a tough look, but yet here I am still rooting for him. I threatened to leave a couple times, but then I'd be jumping on somebody else's bandwagon.
I was gonna say you come here to Cleveland, and we're pretty loyal. We've been through the dirt a few years, let's just say, and we're hoping we can get consistent here.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, things are looking up despite like all sorts of dysfunction at times. Like who's going through various front office personnel. The owner is a little bit there, but
owner is a hair trigger. Jimmy Haslam is a gunslinger. He does not waste any time. There's very little. He's not the Mike Brown, where Mike Brown stuck with Marvin Lewis for so long, despite not really being solid. You know what I mean? Like it took a long time for that change to be made, but like Jimmy Haslam's like, nope, you're done. We're gonna try this guy. We're gonna try that guy. So it's
there's a rotating door.
I actually thought Sashi Brown did not get a fair shake. I think I would have liked to seen him see out his vision, because I think he set the foundation for this franchise to be pretty solid. And then others swooped in and got finishing touches. Like, it helps to be able to draft Baker Mayfield 1-1. You solve your quarterback woes. Yeah, great.
That's what worries me, is because John Dorsey, I thought did a great job drafting for this team. And a lot of these guys are John Dorsey picks. And that's the only thing that made me nervous a little bit with Andrew Berry. I think he's a really smart young mind, but, Dorsey made a lot of good picks with, and like you said, Sashi Brown just got all kinds of draft capital. So, well,
I'll tell you what, I'm rooting for your first rounder this year. I'm a Northwestern guy, so I'm hoping Greg Newsome is awesome, except for every game, except for the Bengals.
Yeah, that guy was amazing. I'm a Notre Dame fan, and when we played him, he just. I mean, I think when we played Northwestern, he was lined up on Chase Claypool when they were still there, and he held Chase Claypool under he was not a very effective receiver in that game, if I remember correctly. And it was it was just him. He had no over the top help or anything like that. He had very little safety was shaded to his side because they were worried about Kmet, the tight end at the time. So they were doubling him, and I was like, you don't want to leave Chase Claypool, but Newsome locked him down. So I'm really excited that we got him this round. And again, he's a Northwestern guy, and you gotta love Pat Fitzgerald in the Big Ten.
I love Pat Fitzgerald.
Love him. He's the guy that he looks like he's about to run through a brick wall at any point in time.
Well, I think he was a freshman when I was a senior, if I recall correctly. And he was part of that Rose Bowl team that we had in '96. And I was in law school at the time. He let it all out there for us. And, and you can tell his players will run through a brick wall for him.
Now, have you ever met Coach?
Like, fleetingly for 2 minutes. I met him not at Northwestern. I met him when our basketball team made the tournament for the first time ever and went to Salt Lake, won our first game against Vandy, saw him outside the arena afterward, and he was right outside the beer tent, and he stopped really quickly to take a picture with us. He goes, I need a beer. Let's get a beer before I have to fly back. Because he had to
nice.
Yeah. So he was super nice then, but it was really cool. And he's very relatable. And at least I found that to be the case. And it seems like his players feel the same way.
Now this is kind of changing the subject a little bit, but how excited were you when you got a show on Sirius XM? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Have you? And before that, did you have a job in radio, or was it?
No, not at all. I did some hits regularly for local radio stations here and there, but we won the bidding. It was back before Sirius and XM had merged. It was just XM. They were launching their baseball channel, and they needed a fantasy show, and we won the bidding for that. And I'm our baseball guy, and so I started it. This is back before we're doing any podcasts or anything either. So I was pretty raw, pretty raw is probably be an understatement. I was probably really raw. And I had a co-host. It was a veteran radio guy named Phil Wood. He was like a legend in the DC, Baltimore area, a baseball guy. And he kind of queued me up on the fantasy side of things. And it started there. It was a 1-hour show, XM's MLB Home Plate. Then Sirius and XM merged like 4 or 5 years later, and we lost the gig for a while. But then shortly after the merger, they created a fantasy channel, and us and then John Hansen helped launch the channel. And that's been going for, I think, 11 years. So I think I've been doing radio for like 16, 17 years now. And it's still a rush. It's still really awesome.
Now with Sirius XM, I mean, do you do it from your home, or do you actually have a studio?
Right. This is my studio right here, except they have a dedicated line. I got that and their special equipment, a unit. It's called a codec that connects to a dedicated internet line and sends it right to their studio. Makes it sound like I'm in there, and I can take it and do it from anywhere that's got to get a strong enough internet service.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And I remember, I actually did some work with Vic Carucci. He was he was actually with the Browns at one point. He had like his studio in there, and he would it was like a small box. And he's like, yeah, I just do Sirius XM right from here. I'm like, wow, that's pretty neat. And I wondered if any guests, I know John Hansen, I mean, the guru, he's amazing and does great work too. And I always wondered, I'm like, man, you guys all sound like you're in the studio. You're like right there, and you can take calls. And I mean, it's pretty amazing what you can do now.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it gets better and better. I'm really blessed that I was able to do this, and I get a little choppy, a little raw at times still, but that's okay. Listeners know that, and I've developed a good rapport with my co-host Chris Liss over the years, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And whether it was Todd Zola on Sundays or a lot of our crew. And the thing is, we've been able to kind of train up a few other guys. Clay and James do a great job on the baseball show on Fridays. Now we're getting Mario Puig, who does a lot of great work. We have a bunch of guys that are starting to feel their sea legs a little bit, if you will, on the radio side of things. And it's cool.
No, I think it's very cool. I mean, I'm jealous of you guys. I mean, you guys have been doing this so long. We've been doing a lot of local sports here in the Cleveland area, and then when it's slow in other areas, we also do college and professional. But I think Zoom has also been huge for us. We interviewed Katie Najat. She was a local Olympian that does pole vaulting. She's in Tokyo. We had her on about a week ago.
Nice.
And Zoom is an amazing thing, and it's helped us a lot with interviews of coaches, players that have been around this area, and also live streaming. So
that's awesome.
It is, technology is amazing, I think. And like you just said, I mean, you sound great when you're on, and I've listened to you for a long time. And you guys do great work, and your website's great for all kinds of fantasy sports. So thanks for what you do, and we appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
Every good move Rob has ever made, I'm now directing it that's Jeff telling you what to do. Every good move, every trade you make, because you're the worst person to trade with, Rob, because you always want the moon. And I'm going to say, now I'm going to ask you, do you think Jeff would approve of this trade? Do you think Jeff would think this is a fair trade? And I guarantee you, he will say, probably, because you're trying to fleece me for somebody that I would.
It's like Seinfeld, or you ask George, are you trying to do what you thought was supposed to be the right thing, or is it the opposite?
The opposite, do the opposite. But this has been awesome. Somebody who does this for a living and getting an opportunity to speak with you, and I just want to echo Rob. I don't have Sirius XM, but I rent a lot of cars for work, so you guys are on my radio a lot when I'm driving from one part of Florida to the other, or one part of Texas to the other, and it's just fun to listen to. You guys do a great job on your channel, and again, your website's phenomenal. And anybody who has the opportunity to go on RotoWire, sign up, schedule in. It's worth its weight in gold if you want to win a fantasy championship. I say that for anybody. So
I appreciate that. And hey, if your listeners want to check us out, before subscribing, we offer a free 10-day trial because try it before you buy it, and there's no credit card or anything like that. Just go to rotowire.com/free. It's a free 10-day trial, and then kick the tires around it. Everything except for our live draft software is part of the free 10-day trial. And if it's just, all you have to do is put a valid email address. You don't have to put in a credit card. It's not going to kick in automatically. You don't have to cancel it. But hopefully you want to subscribe and use us throughout the season.
I re-upped just today. I forgot that I let it lapse last year, and that's why I did not come in second or third last year.
That's why you were at the bottom.
I was not at the bottom, Rob. I was at the middle. I middled last year. I'm not.
Yeah, I know. Injuries hurt me last year. I had the top points, and I was the top team in regular season. And then
I was the top point getter.
I drafted really well last year. I had Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Calvin Ridley were my receivers. I did have Chubb, and Chubb got hurt, and I traded for Jonathan Taylor, which I had, and I still have. So we'll see how it's going to work this year. We had our league's a few keepers, so we have two keepers.
Yeah, that's how you were going back and forth to me about that. That's right.
Yep.
I knew it. It
was a tough call with Devontae. I hated to get rid of him, but
Oh, I didn't, because guess who I'm targeting?
Well, you can't, because you had Zeke Elliott in the first round, so you don't get a first round pick this year, and I do.
Stymied again.
There it is.
Every time, this guy.
But no, we really appreciate your time.
Really
Sean, do you have any other questions for him before we let him go?
I've run my list. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Ed, the other guy on our show, he's a kicker, and he's a little bit hurt because we took a vote 2 years ago to remove the kicker position.
Oh, no.
I know it was a tough call, but it was either that or another flex position, and I was always more for another flex position as opposed to a kicker. So I guess the question that Ed wanted to ask was, one, can you make a case for having a kicker, and that would convince us all next year to have it? And number two, he asked a question about scoring, and I'm trying to
I think it was with quarterbacks.
Yes,
it was with quarterbacks. If you like 4 points for a passing touchdown or 6 points, I don't know if you, Sean, did you ask about the PPR question too? Do you prefer?
I did ask the PPR question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like having kickers. I think that I hate that see a scoring event in real life not count for us in the fantasy realm. I'd rather it count. I just think, why not add the other flex position and the kicker? You don't have a finite number of spots you can add, right? We're not using an abacus to keep scoring. We can add it all.
We may
just have both.
Otherwise, but yeah.
And kickers are better than ever these days too. And you got someone like Justin Tucker, who is historically good. Why not? I hate not having him as part of the game. Length is getting better with these kickers. If you want to have like negative points for missing field goals, go for that. I think that might be a way to kind of look at, to mute the value a little bit. And that makes the best kickers worth a little bit more. And, the scrubs may be worth a little less. So I know there's some randomness in who has more field goals in a given week, but you draft kickers on good teams. They're going to have more scoring opportunities for the most part. And there are some that are just genuinely good.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. Now, what do you think about quarterbacks having 4 points for passing touchdowns or 6? Does it
no
matter
preference,
either
really.
way?
I play both. Tell me the scoring system, I'll adjust accordingly. If you get 6 points for a passing touchdown, it does cut in. It kind of levens the playing field against the running quarterbacks a little bit. Running quarterbacks have such an advantage. And again, if you want to go 6 and have a QB flex, a super flex, I think that's fine too. I think that's a good way of bringing other quarterbacks into the equation.
Interesting.
I think you convinced me to bring the kicker back, Rob.
Oh boy, here we go. We're going to have another meeting.
Sowing discord in your league.
Look what you did, Jeff.
There's constant discord in the league.
Of course there is. It's a veteran league, right?
The fantasy league.
It is. It's been a league that's been going for a while. So I mean, we've had fun with it. We usually have a draft. We'll have the draft at my house, and it's live. Most people are here. There's a few that will draft online, but you start at 7 and everybody hangs out
the next day, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Thank God.
Well, you are sports on tap. I'd hope there might be some alcohol.
Yeah, we get to the tap part really quickly in the draft.
Of course, you got to live up to that. Hey, you're talking about total points. One thing we just had our big stake league dinner. One thing we do is we have a total points side bet, so there's 8 of us in this side bet, and we play all the way through week 18 now, it was 17, and if there's 8 of us, the top 4 teams eat. We go out to this big steak dinner later after the season. Top 4 teams eat for free. Yeah, it includes appetizers, drinks, dessert, you name it. 5th place person pays for himself. 6th and 7th pay for themselves and one other, and last place pays for himself and 2 others. So it can get a little punitive. And of course, we get people offering, ordering entrees as appetizers. Chris Liss is notorious for that, but it's a good time though, too. You have a nice dinner, you get to go see each other. And we don't always get to see each other in the regular season. We're kind of spread out a little bit too. If you see each other on a regular basis, it might be a little bit different, but it's a good way to get together after the season. And that way your whole total points title doesn't go to naught. You're not prisoner of having that one bad week. For instance, I had a great league, a Scott Fishbowl team last year where I had Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert, a super flex league. That's great. They both had their worst week of the season together in the same week of the playoffs. And Baker Mayfield on my bench went off. So that was awesome.
That's a good point. We had a problem with, having the kind of the losers bracket and what would make them compete, because you have the top teams and then you have the bottom. And at that point, they're pretty much tuned out,
the total points is everything after that point. No one wants to be the double buyer. So that's a way to keep, and you can obviously see different permutations of that. It doesn't have to be a steak dinner, but it's a good way to keep everybody involved all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. And I think we tried with waiver wire too of, a lot of people, if you're in the bottom, you're going to go for the waiver wire, every week and pick up guys and drop guys quite a bit. We tried some different things with that, but nobody wanted to throw, money per free waiver wire picks. Are there any other options that you could see that might make it so you have to really be smart with your waiver wire pickups?
See, I don't want to discourage transactions. I want people to be churning. I mean, if you're a good player, more transactions works in your favor because you're going to make smart moves and your opponent, he's not going to be very smart. He's just going to make more mistakes. So, hey, it's kind of like poker. You want to play more hands. You fancy yourself a good player. You want to be involved more and force other people to mistakes. Now, the misconception is we're all better than average players. That's the interesting thing there. Oh, I'm definitely a really good player. This guy's an idiot.
My own head. I'm a genius.
Yes. How can you play like that?
Yeah.
No.
You're absolutely right about that. I saw some leagues that did that, and I'm like, I couldn't get over. I mentioned it.
I would be in debt. I would be in debt if we charged per waiver wire transaction.
But then you get, if they're going to charge, the bottom teams are never going to, they're going to mail it in after some point. That true. Only enhances the problem.
Well, and that's what I like with, we had where if you're, at the bottom of the league, you're obviously going to have the top waiver wire pickup. And I like that so that they have a chance to get back in it by having the top waiver wire pickup and maybe getting back in the thick of things.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
it's very cool.
Up for a wonderful year, Rob. I'm really excited. Now that I've talked to Jeff, I'm going to do a couple mock drafts. I'm going to get myself set. Also going to pick up some nice hard seltzers for our draft party. And then, maybe we'll circle back and I'll reach out to Jeff and see what he thinks of my draft. And he'll probably be like, obviously you're the champion. You're the smartest guy in this league.
Jeff just responds to mine, though. He won't respond to yours. True, probably, his name's Sean Duffy. Just make sure, you
can block me anytime.
Yeah. Or do you know what you could say? Just give him the opposite info of what should happen.
Right. Carson Wentz seems like a great for week 1 play. He's probably going to be awesome week 1.
Keyword Texans. Texans.
Yes. I see nothing wrong with any Texan right now. There's just there's value all over that team.
I mean, we could probably go on for hours. I keep thinking of questions, and then I'm like, all right, we appreciate you coming on.
they're starting to wrap around my strategy and not anyone else. So
Yeah.
it's just basically a conversation with Jeff. But yeah, I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. I know you're crazy busy, and this is the time of year where I think the worlds collide. Like you said, baseball's kind of rounding in. You had the trade deadline last week, started training camp. Uh, you know, if you're a golf fan, I know the FedEx Cup's going to start kicking off here in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a big draw. And the Olympics as well. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time and talking with us, and we'll be sure to listen in and take your advice every chance we get.
Happy to do it anytime, guys. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. And again, thanks for coming on, and we'll reach out and hope to have you on again sometime.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too. And that is Jeff Erickson, who joins us. As you can catch him on Twitter at Jeff_Erickson, and he is the senior editor for RotoWire. He's the host of RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today. That's on Sirius XM satellite radio, XM 87, Sirius 210, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. He does a great job, and we want to thank Jeff Erickson for joining us. Really great info and a lot of fun to talk to.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I could do that all night.
Oh, I know. And you know what, as he said, the Texans, I'm like, oh man, I didn't even ask him about Deshaun Watson and everything else going on. He's got so much going on, and can't thank him enough for coming. He's been so nice to us, and I reached out to him, and having him on was great. Here today, and at first I had some things going on with graphics and everything. So, but it was a lot of fun here tonight, and we want to thank him for joining us.
Yeah, and for those that are tuning in, and we are going to start our high school football season. It feels like it's starting earlier, Rob, because it is. They actually kick off August 20th. We will be back on Twitter releasing the games we will be covering on a Friday night fury, I guess we can call it. Our spotlight games in the Suburban League, in the GCC, in the Southwestern Conference, in all the other, what's the other league we cover? Oh, in the Great Lakes Conference. Coming up here in the next week or so, we got to kind of get ourselves together and figure that out. But we will be covering high school football. We will continue and expand our coverage coming up this year in hockey. Again, this is all kind of up in the air and doing what we're doing. But we are making plans, so to speak, going into the high school football season. Rob, we are in the midst. I mean, they're at 2 days right now. They're getting ready, and I'm excited. I think you're excited. I know Josh and Ed are excited. We will be having a lot of. I'm basically on this now by myself, just talking because Rob left, so I don't know what I'm going to say. But yeah, so that's what we have coming up. We will be on Twitter. Follow us at SOT Podcast. We're on YouTube. Make sure to check out RotoWire.com. Make sure to check out Sirius XM and Jeff's fantasy show. He does a fantastic job. It's one of those. It's one of those. If you're not listening and you're not seeing success, if you're not seeing success with your fantasy football or fantasy league team, and you're not utilizing these guys, then that's your problem, because these guys are fantastic. They do a great job. Always have great information, and they keep it. What I like about it, because I'm not a very intelligent person, despite my looks and everything else, I am essentially. They keep it very simple and keep it very informative, and I like that. And I think he does a great job. That whole team over there does a great job. But like I said, we are gearing up for our high school coverage. It will be, as we always do. We'll probably be back on Zoom, right, Rob?
You are correct.
We're back on Zoom, doing our weekly thing. Might have a few surprises, get some coaches in here, talk about the upcoming season, and really looking forward to kicking this thing off, man. I mean, we're in the month now. We're in go time, and I think, the fact that they're starting earlier is fun, and it's going to create a lot more opportunity for us to cover some leagues and get some spotlight out there.
You're absolutely right, buddy. Can't wait to be a part of it and get the high school football season started.
Yes, sir.
We're going to have some fun, that's for sure.
Well, I guess that's it, Rob. So for
That's
Rob
it, man.
Troutman,
Thanks for joining me. We had a great time here tonight. Again,
yeah.
want to thank Jeff Erickson, the host of RotoWire Fantasy Sports Day on Sirius XM satellite radio. You can catch him on XM 87, Sirius 210, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. He's Jeff_Erickson on Twitter. He's all over the place, but it's rotowire.com. Check them out because they do a great job. And if you're really looking, to get involved in any fantasy sport, that will hook you up, and most likely you'll be a winner.
Take advantage of that 10-day free trial, man. That thing pays for itself, especially if you're looking for the edge on your upcoming fantasy draft. It's a 10-day free trial.
Oh my!
I know, right?
Sean's losing the gusto, folks.
I'm losing it. It's too late in the day, Rob. It's too much, man. I'm trying here, but no, man, that was fun. And the fact that he was not impressed with any of your fantasy football acumen was pretty awesome. I think I don't want to speak for Jeff, but I think he was pretty impressed with my abilities to understand the fantasy landscape. And it still doesn't matter. I don't have my belt anymore.
That's
Pat
right.
Pat Robinson stole my belt.
Hey, I thought we had a lot of good questions, and he's a great interview, easy going to talk to, and had a lot of fun. So want to thank Jeff Erickson. Want to thank Sean Duffy.
Yes, sir.
It's been a busy, crazy week, but appreciate you.
Thank me. I love this
coming
show.
on.
This is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and like I said, we primarily cover high school sports, but we also do other things as well, and we're not going to limit what we can do. So we have a lot of fun ahead, and can't wait for Sports on Tap to continually get involved in live streaming and things like this. So a lot more fun here with Sports on Tap. So Sean, great job tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man.
All right. Want to thank everyone. For Sean Duffy, I'm Rob Troutman. Want to thank Jeff Erickson again for joining us. We'll see you next time. We're Sports on Tap. Have a great night, everyone.